Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining our webinar today. It's the first in our series as we get started in our new education series here at Nessit. So really happy to have everybody here, and we'll get started here just in a second. All right, let's kick this off. Welcome to our webinar, Ensuring the Success of Your Remote Workforce, put on by Nessit. My name is Geoff Ness. I'm the CEO here at Nessit, founder and go-to guy when it comes to how do we ensure the success of our remote workforce, both internally and for our customers. So today I'd like to go through a few things. We'd like to make sure that everyone comes out of this with a little better understanding that your business isn't alone. Certainly we're going through this, many of our clients are going through this, and the struggles that you're facing in moving to a remote workforce are not unique, and we're all going through them. I'm hoping that you're going to come up with some benefits and risks associated with working from home, get a little better understanding of how technology can maybe improve your team's remote experience, how you can be a little more collaborative, and how you can move your business forward in these times. I have a couple client stories that will help drive some of those points home, and I am open to questions through all of this. A few little housekeeping items. We will be recording this webinar live. So I'd love if you could forward this to those that you might find beneficial. We'd welcome feedback and suggestions for new topics for future webinars. And throughout this, feel free to put your questions in our Q&A section of this webinar, located in the upper right-hand corner. Again, my name is Geoff Ness. I started Nessit when I was a junior in high school. I always knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur, always knew that I wanted to start my own business. I was a total nerd at heart when I was a kid, and technology was really the area that I just fell in love with. So as I started formalizing Nessit, I knew that I wanted to bring trust, integrity, and friendliness to the IT space. It was an area that I felt, needed some help. I had watched my parents who owned a small business and others kind of struggle with the technology space, and it was something I knew I could always help people with. We've grown steadily over the years. Today, we serve the small to mid-market businesses focused on delivering IT managed services, network infrastructure, hosting, and corporate AV solutions. We're really focused on delivering relationship-driven engagements with our customers. We recognize that our job is to help our customers evolve their business, and I think some of the stories you'll hear today will show how some of that thought and energy that goes into shaping someone's business can really be done through technology. Because of the relationship we have with our clients, I've definitely received a lot of questions about the best way to transition to a remote workforce. Given the situation that we're all in, it's definitely a common topic, and it's on top of everybody's mind. By far, the most common question that I get from my clients today is, can I run my business remotely? No question, it's on top of mind for everybody. Can I run my business remotely? As we kind of moved into this new management style where we're not face-to-face with our customers, myself and my client relations team really started putting a focus on customer check-ins. We wanted to understand, what are people facing? What are some of their troubles? And as IT guys, how can we help people use technology to fix some of that? The customer consensus that we're seeing is remote work is here to stay. For those businesses that are able to and have come up with methods to work remotely, their employees are starting to get used to the idea that it's possible now more than ever to accomplish their jobs from home. On the business side, from the manager's standpoint, we're starting to see a few trends. Employers are investing in more services now more than ever for remote work. Companies are putting in a remote infrastructure to support those employees. And business owners and managers are overwhelmed with managing remote teams. It can be a challenging area. I know certainly for me, it's been an area of learning that we've had to adapt to. One of the common questions we always ask our customers is, what keeps you up at night? And that common theme is, can I run my business remotely? The responses from our clients really fall into three categories. Our favorite one, yes, they're ready to go. They feel like they're in a good spot. They've planned ahead. They're in good shape. Most of their employees are running remotely. They're able to conduct business from a day to day. There's still some things that need to be considered around security, remote management of devices and technology, both from a technical standpoint and from a personnel standpoint. So how do we make sure that people are as successful as possible when they're not in the office? I'd say most of our client base fell right in this maybe category. It was a pretty large group. They don't really know where they're at. Some of their staff is set up for remote work. Most of them are not. We went into this kind of blind, not really knowing what to expect and how long was it going to last? How much do I need to prepare for it? So there's some questions that remain for the maybe group. What is it going to take to get the rest of my team ready? Can we get the rest of them ready? Perhaps some of the administrative staff has been, prepped for this, and they've been able to work from home over the last couple of years. But there's still lingering questions around how service delivery staff will operate remotely and how best can they serve their customers. The last group is obviously not even close. And I think sadly, we've heard stories about companies who really truly feel this way. I think the number one that we felt on our side was the education system. Both grade schools through higher education alike, they had to give their teachers an extra week of spring break and vacation just to figure out how are we going to move their in-person curriculum to 100% remote. We're totally flipping the business model on its head, and how can we use that tech to support that? I think it really shows us that industries who said, no way, we can't work remote, we're not even remotely ready, are actually thriving at it. And it's possible that they've found that technology has given them a new view into areas that they didn't really expect. The bottom line is we need to be nimble and we have to pivot to survive. It really brings the next question of how can I offer my service remotely or sell them online? I know many of us on the call, and if not all of us, are small or in the small to mid-market companies. Most of us are business owners, not necessarily individual providers, but I thought this example kind of showed the value in learning how to pivot quickly. A good friend of mine is a holistic psychotherapist. She was used to seeing all of her patients in person 100% of the time. Telehealth was not something that she even remotely considered. But like the rest of us, she had to pivot and she had to figure out how can I keep my business running while still serving the customers that so desperately needed her support. She actually now sees 100% of her patients via telehealth video sessions. And I thought her quote here was pretty on point, given that she's had a unique opportunity to peek into people's lives in a whole new way. I think if we can step back from the challenges that we're facing in these times, it's an opportunity for us to explore new avenues and get to know our customers in a different way. So, given what Sherry had said, I think it's relevant to say that our current situation is causing us to pause for a moment. Even internally, we're having to evaluate how do we change our mindset? How do we become more useful remotely? Technology has been kind of a nice area in that remote support is a thing. We've been doing remote support for years. The idea of having to go into someone's office and fix a computer isn't really a thing anymore. But we've still had to become more useful remotely. So how do we project manage projects remotely? How do we have virtual meetings to make sure that we're hearing what customers are experiencing and some of the troubles that they're having, and how do we adapt to that? It really got me thinking about some of the tools that are at our disposal to really deliver exceptional service. Brings us really into the collaboration side of our presentation. So, for the most part, it's not just clients that we serve. We have a team that we have to stay in touch with. We have to manage that team. We have to check in on them. One of the styles of management that I've really implemented is every time I speak with my direct reports, I always check in on three things: their mental well-being. So how are they feeling about what's going on? What are they seeing? How are they doing? Checking in on the project that they're working on, and how successful are they feeling? Are they able to produce exactly what they were able to do when they were in the office? What tools have been taken away from them, and what can we do for them on a business standpoint? And for my direct reports and my managers, how are they getting on managing their own team? They've certainly been experiencing a whole new world in managing direct reports remotely. So as a company, we've gone through the same transition as many of our customers. As a leadership team here, as a technology company, we decided to focus on three things for our employees: communication, productivity, and data security. The idea being that we want to make sure that we have a direct line of communication with our employees. We want to make sure that they're able to be productive day to day in their jobs, but we also want to make sure that our company data is still safe and secure, knowing that they're no longer in the office where we had many protections in place to prevent any bad things from happening. We know that these three core functions will continue moving our business forward. So we really focused on collaboration tools. We know the collaborative tools are the key to remaining connected and in sync during these times. And we found that many businesses are already actually paying for and using products like Microsoft 365, which not as many people know comes with some really neat tools that just if you implemented could expand your communication with your team so much easier. Nessit's a Microsoft partner, so we are pretty well ingrained in the Microsoft platform top to bottom. And so products like Microsoft 365, most people think of as Outlook, Word, Excel, but there's actually a lot of those collaborative tools such as Teams, Exchange, OneDrive for file storage, SharePoint for sharing data and web content, that if we kind of took a step back and implemented some of these tools that you're already paying for, could be hugely beneficial. We really focused in on Microsoft Teams internally. For those that don't know, it's a fully integrated communication platform. It specializes in project management, teamwork, productivity, data sharing. We actually also use Teams to move our phone system to a remote VoIP system. This basically means that our employees, regardless of where they are in the world, can answer that same call coming in as if they were in the office. So it's the idea of business continuity and employee connectivity. So now that we've got all these tools in place, we have to secure that data. It's one of those things that keeps me up. So the next question we always get is my workforce safe in the wild? Where we used to really be focused on having laptops and coffee shops and traditional public Wi-Fi, as we think of it, hotels and airports. Now that people aren't really in those areas anymore, that people feel a sense of security that, okay, the risk has dropped. But what a lot of people don't think about is, what about that common Wi-Fi in an apartment building? What protections have been put in place to protect our employees and our company data from being in some of those vulnerable spaces that we don't always think about. So we suggest putting a few things in place. The first one is a VPN, or virtual private network. Really what this is doing is connecting a company-owned device back to your corporate network at your office. Creates a secure tunnel, making sure that everything is encrypted and your data is safe between device and office. The next thing we really look at is device level protection. Do you have software running on your device, such as firewalls and data encryption, anti-malware or antivirus? How do you know that those are all being taken care of and they're all working the way they're supposed to be working? The last piece we really focus on is intrusion detection and centralized reporting. Really what I mean by centralized reporting is, most companies have all of these systems in place in their office to protect them. They have firewalls, they have antivirus. And so when they're in the office, we can report on them very easily. When they're remote and they're not in the office, they're disconnected from all of those reporting tools. So we have to come up with creative cloud solutions to start supporting that remote workforce, so we can get that same insight to make sure everything we put in place is actually working. It was interesting. I was reading an article in Business Week magazine, and it was talking about how there was a massive ransomware attack on a financial institution, and it was really based around the IT department and the management staff being so focused on outfitting their remote workforce and making sure that people could work outside of their office, that they started relaxing the IT security that they had put in place to protect people. And they needed to do that to accommodate the needs of mobile employees leaving the office, which is unbelievably far more vulnerable than I think we think about. So it really reminds us, don't forget to keep an eye on the shop. Make sure that the protections that you have been putting in place and you've spent so much time and money thinking about are actually still working for you, and we're not starting to turn that off just to make our lives easier. So it really gives us that idea that even customers that are fully operational, even the ones that are using cloud services, need to be protected. And we really need to ensure the security between our end user and that data. So in a VPN scenario, like I said, most people are connecting back to their office, which puts far new challenges on the infrastructure that you have built at your office. So for those that still rely on on-premise services and servers, what I mean by that is, your business line of software is currently residing on a server in your office. Being able to access that is important. So we have to revisit, how do we use the IT infrastructure that we've invested in to support remote employees? And that's not always easy. There's definitely some struggles and frustrations that we've seen from our clients in this one. One of the biggest mistakes that we see people make is that they've really spent money and designed a network to support an internal staff. But in doing that, it really creates a bottleneck for external staff. I think in companies that we've seen that were already split between on-prem and remote, they had created a network and designed systems to support both types of employees. Most of our clients hadn't at the time. So I think we really saw that most of them had designed networks and wanted to maintain networks that supported just what they needed at that time. So the question we often get is, will my on-premise network handle that remote workforce? Traditionally, like I said, people are only paying for what they think they need day to day, but we're starting to tax that internet connection in new ways than it's ever been used before. We love to make the comparison of a river flowing freely and putting a nice big rock in the way. And so, that river flowing freely is all of the people in the office using that internet connection that's been coming in, and it works great. But suddenly they go outside the office, and there's this huge bottleneck. We're all trying to get that same amount of water to go through that river, but that big bottleneck and that big rock is in the way, and it's preventing us from being as productive as we can. We're starting to see a remote workforce that can't access in-office data, certainly at least the way they used to be able to do that. And what we're starting to see in our clients is a huge productivity shift, unfortunately in a negative way, to some really low numbers because people just can't access their data. They're available, they're hooked up, they want to work, but they just can't get to the data that they need. So we really have to start coming up with some creative solutions to solve this problem. We had a customer in the local area that was 100% on-premise, and they only had desktops, no laptops. So when this all kind of went down and they had to work remotely, they had to get creative. We looked at recreating their environment in a mobile scenario, buying them laptops, configuring them to be able to use their software remotely. That's all well and good, but this would have been a ton of money. We were looking at about a $30,000 CapEx expense that would have just gotten them to a point where they could work. So instead, we actually got a little creative and we purchased some inexpensive laptops. They're really kind of home use machines, and we developed a secure system to remote into an existing infrastructure. So we're talking about utilizing that power that's already in place, the money that we've already spent in investing in a great infrastructure on premise to be able to use the equipment that we already had in the office. By saving money on those workstations, this client was actually able to save the money that would have been spent into mobile workforce, and they were able to invest that in some other projects for the business that they were hoping to accomplish. Like I said, we saved them about $30,000 in CapEx and about $2,000 a month in recurring management costs. We've started coming up with new uses for these lower end laptops. When they come back into the office, we can use them as spare machines, use them for new hires or interns. So we kind of get creative to make sure that we're not just abandoning any new technology we're investing in today. Some of the other things that we should be working on and thinking about is why don't our employees use their personal devices? We've gotten this question a few times. So we get the question often, should I allow my team to use personal devices to work remotely? Not everyone has the capability or the hardware to allow them to work remotely. And it seems like a really simple, easy option that, hey, you know what? I'm trying to help. Employees want to work. Bottom line, they're trying to help. They want to be able to support their employer. And so they've come up with this idea. We'll hook up our personal laptop to the network. I can access the software I need. Saves the company money on hardware. And it sounds like a great idea. Well, there are a lot of caveats that we need to think about. And this is actually a real world scenario that we've faced quite a few times over the last few weeks, and a question that we've been requested to support. We really have a rule of thumb here at Nessit. If your office technology policy would prohibit someone from bringing a personal device into the office, basically what I mean is if you prevent someone from bringing their personal laptop into your office to do work, then we probably shouldn't let them connect to your network remotely. And here's some of the reasons why. You know, Primarily, the customer laptop is unmanaged and unreported. We have no idea what operating system is running. We don't know what kind of antivirus they're running. We don't know, are they running Windows 7, Windows 10? In one particular scenario, we had a customer that was looking to have an employee-owned laptop brought in. It was a Windows 7 machine. As everyone knows, over the last year, everyone has spent so much time in upgrading to Windows 10. We would be reintroducing a Windows 7 machine back into an environment. As most of you probably know, that's a huge security risk, as Windows 7 is no longer supported by Microsoft, and we'd have no way to kind of create a check and balance against that computer. It's definitely a difficult call for this specific business owner, but it was one that we really supported and really considered a necessity to make. At the end of the day, above all, it's about compliance and data safety. Some of the other things we're starting to see is really a strategic shift for our clients. In this scenario, we had a company that really focused on investing money into on-premise solutions yet again. But now that we've seen that these employees are capable of working remotely and succeeding working remotely, this specific customer is actually starting to invest more money into cloud-based solutions. So part of what we're trying to do is help our clients think through strategic changes in business models. It's not an easy thing to go through. It's a dramatic change in their business, but it's one that's necessary to ensure long-term success. And I'm talking well beyond COVID-19. So there's always some questions that we ask we tell our clients to ask themselves. What new strategies can you implement to keep your business running? And what resources do you need to make those strategic decisions? Not necessarily just implementation, but how do you make those strategic decisions? It's a big decision, and it's one that you can't take lightly. Something that we put together to help our customers through this is the remote readiness checklists. This will be available to download on our website. If you go to nessit.net/education, we really believe in helping others think through some of these challenges and think through some of the gotchas that you may not have considered. We'll be sending out an email to everyone that has attended today, and you can also check it out on our website. So I'd highly suggest you download it, go through it, see how you rate yourself. If you have any questions, we're here to help you go through this, or reach out to your current IT provider, and they could certainly walk you through some of these as well. With that, I'll open this up for questions, and I'd love to hear from everybody. So, excuse me, we just got a question talking about companies having to adapt. What's a unique business model change that you've seen? We've seen some interesting ones. Probably one of my favorites is we've got a bridal boutique that has totally closed down. They don't have any clientele. Weddings are getting pushed off, but there's still brides that are looking to be able to try on dresses and bring their entourage into the boutique to go through that experience. And fortunately, given our distancing challenges, we've had to come up with a creative way to collaborate with people outside of the shop while making people feel like they're still part of it. So we're actually building out a telepresence room with cameras and screens to really create that virtual experience for grandma who can't make it to the try-on. We're able to bring that experience to her through this system. So it's really an interesting challenge for us. It was one that we're excited to help people through. Certainly a special time in their lives. The one that I went through recently. And I've heard great stories about it. So any way we can figure out how to help others go through the same thing. Another question we got is, how can my employees test their internet speed? kind of going back to the river analogy, how do I know if my internet is up to snuff and can provide everything that I need it to? There's some really great free resources out there. One that I like to use is speedtest.net. Speedtest.net is a great tool. You go in, you click run, and it's as simple as that. And what it's going to do is check to see what kind of bandwidth do you have available for up and down speeds. And given what that is, will help you understand if you're getting some bottlenecks in your network. So another question we got was, how long would the process take to migrate to a remote workforce? This is certainly a kind of case-by-case question. A remote workforce it's the gamut, whether it's 5 people, 50 people, what kind of software are we trying to support? We've been able to ramp some up in as short as a week, and others take weeks to be able to think through critically and make sure that we're making smart decisions. Again, that data security piece is really critical, and being able to check in on, what's going on. So I'd invite everyone to join us on our next webinar series. Our next topic is going to be around optimizing the management of remote employees. Something I'm really going to focus on is what software or tools can we use to see what our employees are doing and how productive are they. And it's not to be critical, but it's to help them understand what's going on. When we're outside of this, controlled work environment, it's a little harder to pay attention. I know I can suffer from that sometimes. So how can we, show reporting, show data to really get them to understand what that looks like? A couple follow-ups for everybody that's attended today. We will be following up with the readiness checklist. Like I said, we have been live recording this webinar today, so we'll be sharing that video when that's ready for everybody. And again, I would love for you to distribute it. Last piece today is we'll be doing a quick follow-up survey. I really would love your feedback. It's my goal to make sure that these are as useful as possible. So be sure to submit real short survey, as well as some other topics that may be helpful for folks in the future. Thank you, everybody, for joining. I really appreciate having everybody here and look forward to our next webinar coming up in the next few weeks. Thank you very much and have a great day.